Hi everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a brand new story to share with you. So let's begin. My name is Charles. If you've ever trusted someone so much that you couldn't imagine them betraying you, then you'll understand why my story still feels like a nightmare. Let me just say this, the biggest heartbreak a man can go through is finding out that the child his wife is carrying isn't his. It's not something I'd wish on anybody. I'm here to tell you exactly how I found out my wife was cheating on me with her boss. I love my wife, Ariana, in a way I can't fully explain. We were married for 5 years, and for most of it, I genuinely believed nothing could come between us. The first year was full of dreams. We started trying for a baby in our second year of marriage. At first, we were excited, hopeful. Every new month came with a possibility of good news. But as time passed and nothing happened, that hope slowly turned into pressure. Then came the miscarriages. One, then another, and then another. It felt like we were always almost there, and then suddenly not. The last miscarriage shattered her. She stopped bringing up the idea of trying again. In fact, she stopped talking about babies altogether. I didn't blame her. Pregnancy loss isn't just physical. It cuts deep into the soul. But what I wasn't prepared for was how that loss would begin to change everything else between us. Our intimacy died slowly. It began with her saying she was tired or she wasn't feeling well. Then it became that she just needed space. After a while, she stopped even coming to bed some nights. She'd sleep in the guest room or fall asleep on the couch. I tried to be patient. I tried to understand that she was grieving in her own way. I reminded myself that love meant standing by someone even when it's hard, even when they push you away. But the truth is, we weren't just losing a child. We were losing each other. She started avoiding the bedroom altogether. And with that, the closeness we once had became a memory. We were under the same roof, but we were more like roommates than husband and wife. Ariana started spending more and more time at work. She'd leave early and come home late. At first, she'd say she had extra assignments or tight deadlines. Then she started saying she was hanging out with friends after work. But the frequency didn't sit right with me. It felt like every other night, she had somewhere else to be. I just tried to be understanding. I convinced myself that if I pressured her, she might shut down even more. So I stayed patient. Or at least, I tried to. But patience doesn't make the silence easier. One night, we were both in bed. I turned to her and told her it felt like we were becoming strangers. I said I missed how we used to be. I wanted to know if she felt it too. She said, "I don't know what you want me to do about it." Then she turned her back to me and went to sleep. I laid there trying to make sense of everything. I thought about giving up, thought about leaving the marriage. That was the beginning of the distance and the confusion that followed. Weeks after that conversation, she comes home one evening, acting different. She walks in smiling. Before I could even finish asking how her day went, she walks right over, sits on my lap, kisses me, and tells me she's missed me. I was frozen. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know what to do at first. For months, I had been emotionally starving in that marriage, and suddenly, she's feeding me affection. I didn't know where it came from, but I gave in. I wanted that closeness. I missed feeling like her husband, not just some guy she shared space with. That night we made love. It felt surreal. I'd almost forgotten what it felt like to hold her like that again. But it didn't stop there. The next morning, she was up early, making breakfast, asking if I wanted eggs or toast, checking if I needed anything before heading to work. She even sent me a couple of texts during the day. These were things she hadn't done in forever. When she got back home, it happened again. It felt like we were rediscovering each other. A couple of days passed, and her energy didn't change. I should have been happy. I mean, this is what I'd been praying for, right? But deep down, it was too sudden. So one evening after dinner, I sat her down and gently asked her what brought on the change. She looked me in the eye and sighed. Then she said, "I didn't realize how much I was shutting you out. Ever since the last miscarriage, I've been drowning in my own sadness, and I didn't even see how much I was pushing you away. But I thought about it, and I don't want to lose you." Those words hit me hard. I wanted to believe them. So I nodded, pulled her close, and told her I appreciated her honesty. At that moment, I didn't ask any more questions. I let her explanation settle. I convinced myself she had just needed time to process. And now, we were finding our way back to each other. Looking back now, I wish I had asked more questions. I wish I had trusted my gut. Then, one morning, just 2 weeks after she suddenly became affectionate again, Ariana sat me down in the living room. Then she said the words I had waited years to hear, "I'm pregnant." For a moment, I just stared at her, trying to process it. I couldn't believe it. After everything we had been through, those failed pregnancy tests, the sleepless nights spent comforting her after each miscarriage, it felt like God was finally answering our prayers. I asked her how far along she was. I wanted to know when exactly she found out. Her answer caught me a little off guard. She just smiled and said, "You should know, check from when we made love." That didn't make sense to me. But I didn't push. I didn't want to ruin the moment with unnecessary questions. Weeks later, she went for a scan. She came back smiling, talking about how healthy the baby looked and how the doctor said everything was going well. I didn't even think to ask to see the scan pictures or the report. I was just so happy and relieved. I trusted her. I genuinely believed she was being honest with me. I thought we were finally getting our miracle. But I had no idea that behind all that joy, there was a betrayal so deep it would tear everything apart. After everything we'd been through, I finally started to see a side of Ariana I hadn't seen in years. She stopped staying out late. No more excuses about working overtime or hanging out with friends I'd never met. She was home early, cooking dinner. You might think these are small stuff, but after months of feeling like I was married to a stranger, those little things felt huge. It was like getting my wife back, the woman I fell in love with. I didn't want to question it. I just wanted to enjoy it. And honestly, I did. I somehow believed the pregnancy changed something in her, and we were finally stepping into our happy ending. The baby bump started showing, and with each passing month, the joy in me grew. Now that I look back, I realized there were moments that didn't quite add up. Like when she told me the expected delivery date and something in me wondered, wait, is that timing right? But then I'd shrug it off. I didn't want to be the suspicious husband. But let me say this to anyone listening. Don't be like me. Love is beautiful, yes, but it doesn't mean closing your eyes and ignoring signs that things aren't adding up. You don't always need to confront her outright, but you owe it to yourself to quietly observe, to connect the dots, and make sure what you're being told aligns with what you're seeing. Protect your peace. As her due date got closer, we started making plans for a gender reveal. We sent out invitations to close friends and family, rented a small venue, arranged for decorations, cake, balloons, the whole thing. Ariana asked if we could invite her boss and some coworkers. And me? I said yes without even blinking. I thought it was a harmless request. Her boss had been supportive during her rough pregnancy phase, or so she said, and I figured it was just professional courtesy. There was nothing in me that suspected anything wrong at that point. I was just a man excited to finally be a father. It was the day before the gender reveal party. I was at home. She had been buzzing around lately, more cheerful than I'd seen her in months, and I figured she was caught up in all the excitement. Then her phone started ringing. Once, twice, then again. It just wouldn't stop. I looked around, tried to figure out where she was in the house, but it was like she had vanished. No footsteps or response when I called out. The ringing didn't stop. Eventually, the buzzing sound started to really get under my skin, so I picked it up. Now here's the strange part. There was no password on her phone. And honestly, I couldn't even tell you if there ever was one. I hardly ever touch her phone. That was her space, and I respected that. But this time, the situation felt different. I just wanted to shut the phone up. The caller ID said it was the decorators for the event. I answered and spoke briefly. They just wanted to confirm what time to arrive the next day to set up the venue. I gave them a time, said thanks, and ended the call. Simple. But as soon as I dropped the call, something else caught my eye. There were message notifications, several of them from her boss. I know I probably should have just put the phone down, but my gut wouldn't let me. So I opened the chat, just to see. What I found wasn't just unexpected, it crushed me. The first thing I saw was them arguing. She was accusing him of not wanting to attend the gender reveal. I read her words out loud in my head. It's my child's gender reveal, and you want to miss it? And then the next line hit me even harder. We agreed to pretend the baby is my husband's, but you're the real father and should act like one. That's when the pieces started falling apart, but I kept scrolling. Further up in the chat, there it was, months-old messages. One where she told him she was pregnant. Another where she assured him she'd pin the child on me. That it would be easy to make me believe it. That I wouldn't question anything. And she was right. I didn't question anything. I was too busy being a happy and supportive husband. Too trusting to see through her lies. As I kept reading, I saw it all. They had been sleeping together for at least a year. Every time she said she was working late or out with friends, she was with him. And then it hit me even deeper. That night, she suddenly came home affectionate. Touched me like she hadn't in months. Made love to me with an intensity that confused me at the time. It wasn't random. It was calculated. She needed to create a window, so that if I ever got suspicious, she could say the baby was mine. She planned this. She used me, manipulated me into believing this child was ours. I sat there, phone in hand, reading every vile word, while my world cracked open beneath me. I took screenshots of every important message, because at that moment, I realized I wasn't just betrayed. I was being set up to raise another man's child. A child she knew from the start wasn't mine. I closed the messages, put the phone back, said nothing. Tomorrow was supposed to be the happiest day of our lives. But instead, it was going to be the day I exposed it all. It was the day of the gender reveal. The house was dressed up just like Ariana wanted. Balloons, banners, blue, and pink everywhere. Our friends and family started arriving, greeting each other, bringing gifts, snacks, hugs, and excitement. Everyone looked so happy. I watched them as they settled in, laughing, mingling, completely unaware of what was really going on behind the scenes. It felt strange, standing in that space, knowing what I knew, and pretending everything was normal. I greeted people. I smiled. I shook hands. I nodded along when people told me I was going to make a great dad. I smiled even when it hurt. And then Ariana's boss walked in. The man who had been sleeping with my wife and got her pregnant. He dared to walk up to me, stretch out his hand, and say, "Congratulations, man." I shook it, smiling. After everyone had found a seat and the chatter had quieted down, I stood in front of the room. I looked around at all the faces, some I've known for years, others I barely remembered. Ariana was sitting beside her friends, holding her belly like the perfect mother-to-be. I took a breath and asked everyone to give me their attention. It was time. I cleared my throat. "Thank you all for coming," I said, voice steady. "We're here today to celebrate the baby announcement of my wife and her boss." At first, people chuckled. Some blinked in confusion. A few looked around, unsure if they had heard me right. I repeated it, this time louder, sharper. "Yes, you heard me right. My wife is a cheat. And her boss, the one sitting right over there, is the shameless man who got her pregnant behind my back." Gasps, murmurs, eyes widening. I didn't flinch. I didn't stutter. I wanted them all to hear it loud and clear. I didn't bother waiting for their reactions. I looked at Ariana once, dead in the eye. I said just one more thing. "This marriage is over." Then I dropped the mic on the table and walked out. She ran after me. Crying, I turned to her, but I didn't see my wife anymore. I saw a liar and a woman who would have let me raise another man's child. I shoved her hand off me and said the last words I had left for her. "Wait for the divorce papers after you give birth to the bastard you're carrying." I walked away because if I stayed a second longer, I might have broken down right there in front of everyone. When I got home, I didn't pack everything, just the essentials. I just knew I couldn't sleep in that house another night. So I walked out and didn't look back. The next day, word started to spread. You can't keep something like that quiet, especially when it blows up at a public event like a gender reveal. Some called me in shock. Some messaged to say they had no idea what Ariana was capable of. I didn't reply to most. What was there to say? The truth was out now. That was enough. About a week later, I heard from a mutual friend that the company Ariana and her boss worked at had opened an internal investigation. Apparently, a few people had already been suspicious of how close the two of them were, but nobody had real proof. Well, now they did. Screenshots don't lie. 2 weeks into the investigation, both Ariana and her boss were fired. I didn't feel satisfaction or revenge. It was never about ruining her career. It was about protecting myself from a life built on lies. And once the truth came out, everything else started to fall into place. Even before that party, I had already reached out to a lawyer. After I found those messages on her phone, I knew I needed to protect myself. The plan was simple. Once she gave birth, I'd file for divorce. I wasn't going to raise another man's child, and I wasn't going to let her manipulate me any further. The DNA test would be the final nail in the coffin, the legal proof of her betrayal. This time, everything would be documented. That was the final chapter one was preparing for. Before I go, I just want to leave you with a few things I've learned from this painful experience. Maybe if I had known these lessons, I wouldn't have gone through what I did. Or at least, I would have seen the signs before it was too late. The first lesson is simple, but it cuts deep. Don't blindly trust anyone, not even your spouse. I know that sounds harsh. Marriage is supposed to be built on trust. That's what I believed. That's how I lived. I gave Ariana my full trust because I loved her. I never questioned her when she stayed out late. I never checked her phone. I never doubted her stories about work or friends. And that blind trust is what made it easy for her to lie to me for over a year. She used my love as a shield, knowing I'd never suspect her. That kind of betrayal doesn't just break your heart, it makes you question your own judgment. The second lesson I learned is this: never let someone use your loyalty against you. Loyalty is a beautiful thing when it's mutual. But when it's one-sided, it becomes a weakness in the hands of someone who doesn't value it. I stayed in that marriage. I remained patient. I kept fighting for us, thinking it was the right thing to do. I stayed even when she pulled away, when she stopped trying, when she acted cold and distant. I thought I was being strong. I thought I was doing what a husband should do. But she used my loyalty as cover while building a secret life with another man. My faithfulness became the very thing that made me blind to what was happening right in front of me. And the last lesson is probably the most important one. Protect your peace, even if it means walking away from someone you once loved. That's the hardest part, because I truly loved Ariana. I built a future around her. I pictured us growing old together, and walking away from that dream. It broke me. But staying in that situation would have broken me even more. You have to know when it's time to let go. When someone disrespects you like that and lies over and over again, they're not choosing you. So why should you keep choosing them? If you've been watching this and something in my story hits home, please don't make the mistake I made. Ask questions. Pay attention. Don't ignore your gut. Don't let love turn you into someone who accepts disrespect. Protect your peace, even if it means walking away from someone you thought you couldn't live without. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If this helped you or made you think differently about something, please like the video and share it with someone else. You never know who might need to hear this. Take care of yourselves.